In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at the Milburn Education Center at 7 p.m. on June 17th, 2025. Meeting details and the direct agenda were also posted on our Township website. Please stand to salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Cohen,
Here.
Mr. Cosgrove,
Here.
Mr. Sacamandi,
Here.
Mr. Stoller,
Present.
Mayor Romano.
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda? May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. We don't need to write it up. The lead board is take care.
Yeah, but what about the people in the back?
Well, we're done.
Yeah.
May I have a motion to approve the May 20, 2025 Township Committee minutes? May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the May 20th, 2025 Special Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
My favorite meeting. Chief Gilfetter, please.
You can use that.
No?
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome everyone for coming out for our annual police awards. I'm Chief Bill Fetter. I'd like to thank the committee, the mayor, Mr. McDonald, for allowing us to have this tonight. The first award we're going to start off with is Officer Aliota and Detective Lieutenant Tavares. On January 14th, patrol and detective units responded to the area of Morris Turnpike, Broad Street, on information broadcast to all units regarding a vehicle that had been carjacked at gunpoint in the area. Mr. Aliota then located the vehicle in question at the Wawa on Morris Turnpike and quickly backed up by Detective Lieutenant Tavares, as well as Springfield PD units. Felony stop was conducted and the driver was arrested without incident and turned over to Springfield PD along with the vehicle. Next award is from February 3rd, burglary, and a lot of people are involved in this. So we have Officer Cron, Officer Kerwin, Officer Matos, Officer Genetempo, Officer Griffin, Officer Jazuski, Sergeant Manuag, Detective Witchels, and for this one we have Officer Line was involved. So on February 3rd, patrol responded to a residential address and a report of a burglary that had just occurred 10 minutes in the past. An extensive response to the scene and canvass of the area was conducted. Patrol conducted a stop of a suspicious vehicle who was suspected to be involved in an incident. Shortly, a second vehicle was stopped who stated that they were picking up someone in the area. With the assistance of our drone unit, the officers were also able to locate an individual hiding in some bushes. Further investigation by the Detective Bureau led to the evidence that the actors were involved in other burglaries throughout the state. This resulted in 2 arrests of South American theft group members. So that up here for Officer Lyons. Got it. up is Officer Blacking. The patrol responded to a residential address for a possible burglary in progress when homeowners could see and hear the suspects about to make entry into their house via camera. A rapid response to the scene resulted in one arrest of a South American theft group member who was the getaway driver that day. He was charged with obstructing and resisting arrest. The follow-up investigation by our detective bureau led to charges for conspiracy to commit burglary, criminal attempted burglary. Detective, which ones? This is May 17th. While off duty in the area of Mars Turnpike and Overham, Detective Witchels observed a blue Nissan Sentra bearing a Virginia registration traveling at a high rate of speed, weaving in and out of traffic. Further observed the vehicle driving recklessly for a double yellow line, almost colliding with oncoming traffic as it disregarded the red light. He then called on-duty units to see if there were any recent crimes or called for this vehicle, and learned that there had just been an armed robbery at TD Bank in Springfield, and that the vehicle matched the description of the vehicle that he currently was observing. He then called dispatch and followed the vehicle at a safe distance until it hit a curb and became disabled. Then began chasing the driver on foot, which time Springfield PD and Officer Justin Ford arrived on the scene. Officer Ford was able to locate the suspect vehicle, and he was arrested without incident. Detective Mendelson, Officer Racinos, Officer Frisch, Officer Nassim, Sergeant Royce, Officer Aliota. On September 9th, patrol and detective units responded to the area of the Short Hills Post Office at approximately 4 a.m. Information broadcast out by Detective Mendelson that there was a male suspect actively stealing mail from the outgoing mailbox. Detective Mendelson put the mail's description out as units were responding. Officer Racinos was the first to respond and observed the suspect walking away from the mailbox just before he began fleeing from him. And Officer Frisch was arriving as well. Officer Racinos was able to apprehend the suspect after a short foot chase with the assistance of Officer Frisch and Aliota. Sergeant Royce, Officer Nassim, and Detective Mendelson also responded to the area quickly and located a maroon Nissan with Maryland plates. The two males in the vehicle attempting to hide. The individual was removed and apprehended successfully. The individuals were charged with accordingly with regards to mail theft. Officer Racinos, Officer Aliota, Sergeant Royce. Patrol units responded to Woodcrest Ave on a male with low blood pressure who was out of breath. Racinos quickly responded to the scene and located the victim with a faint pulse. CPR was manually started by Officer Racinos and Northern Short Hills First Aid Squad. Sergeant Royce and Officer Aliota then arrived and assisted with manual CPR until CPR was switched over to the Lucas chest compression system. The 83-year-old victim was ultimately transported to St. Barnabas Medical Center where he made a full recovery. Detective Mendelson, Detective Richard. On October 5th, the detective bureau responds to the Short Hills Mall and a burglary of the jewelry store. Suspects used sophisticated tools to enter the store. After gaining entry, the suspect stole a significant amount of jewelry. Working with our federal partners and through extensive investigation techniques, Detective Mendelson and Mitchell were able to charge multiple suspects in the burglary. Officer Racinos, Officer Hunt Miles. Patrol responded to the mall at Short Hills for a report of a theft of sunglasses, but located within the Macy's store. Officer Racinos responded to the area as a suspect description broadcast over police radio. Also at this time, a separate call for service was over the police radio, looking for 3 individuals looking in and trying to enter vehicles in the yellow parking deck. Officer Racinos was then flagged down while responding to this new call for service. And told that he just saw 3 Hispanic males looking into vehicles and entered a black Ford or sedan. He added that one of them had hid in the trunk of the vehicle. Mall security then witnessed on CCTV the same suspect enter a black sedan at a Barry, Massachusetts plate. Short time later, Officer Hunt Miles located the suspect vehicle within the mall property onto JFK Parkway and conducted a traffic stop. Officer Racinos was a backup along with Detective Mitchell's. Subsequent investigation learned that these individuals were the individuals responsible for the original shoplifting from Sunglass Hut. The investigation and search also led to finding a firearm in the trunk, along with one of the suspects hiding in the trunk. The actions of all the officers on scene led to the arrest of 5 individuals for shoplifting and weapon possessions and was wanted by the FBI. Officer Mitos. While on patrol at Short Hills Mall, Officer Mitos observed a silver sedan, what he believed was a fake New Jersey temp tag. He then stopped the vehicle and learned that the plate was in fact counterfeit. A subsequent investigation on scene utilized the VIN and questioning proved that the vehicle was a stolen motor vehicle at PD. The individual was subsequently arrested and charged accordingly, counterfeit temp tag, possession of the stolen motor vehicle. Yeah. Officer Sweeney, Officer Nassim, Officer First. Patrol units responded to Old Short Hills Road and report of a residential structure fire. Officer Sweeney, Nassim, and Fresh immediately responded to the residents to find a fully engulfed house with flames shooting from the roof and windows. They quickly assessed the situation and learned that someone may be inside of the residence. Despite the house being fully engulfed, they made their way to the back inside of the house to be an entry. They quickly located a female who was still inside the house and unable to exit herself. The officers used teamwork and ultimately pulled the female out of the house in the fire and began treating her for smoke inhalation and burns to the body. Officer Dundon, Officer Recinos. Officer Seabogen. Patrol units received law enforcement intelligence that a stolen motor vehicle had possibly just entered the property of the Short Hills Mall. It was confirmed that the vehicle was stolen out of Port Authority, and officers located the vehicle with some police officers in the block. Officers Dundon, Recinos, and Seabogen then conducted a stop with the assistance of Summit PD on the vehicle and subsequently arrested 2 males in the vehicle. Search incident to arrest located multiple pills, credit card in someone else's name. Officer Hunt Miles, Sergeant Manuag, Officer Tucker, patrol units received law enforcement intelligence that a stolen motor vehicle had possibly just entered the property of the mall at Short Hills. Captain Del Russo quickly located the vehicle driving on Ring Road on the mall property and began calling locations of the vehicle to allow other units to move in for a felony stop. Once at a stop sign in traffic, a felony stop was conducted on the vehicle. Both suspects in the vehicle were taken into custody. Search into the arrest found approximately 1 pound of marijuana. So to congratulate all officers again for their awards for tonight. These are some of the higher level arrests that were made throughout the year. Of course, our officers do a great job every year. And just thank you for coming in tonight.
I want to just thank you for the risks that you take every day to protect and serve our community. We are very lucky to have the police department that we do. Anyone else want to?
I second that. Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you so much.
I too would like to echo those sentiments. Our police do a fantastic job protecting us day in and day out. Crime is way down this year, which is fantastic. So I think it's just a testament to fine folks, our Milburn Police Department. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank you all. I talked to you last, talked to you all, and the work, the breadth and diversity of all the events that occur here. Thank you for solving all of them.
We're gonna take like a 3-minute break so that you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, but do you think somebody could just take a picture of you with all of them? Somewhere, can we do that? I'll take it if you just. Somewhere to stand. Okay, we're gonna get started. We have a proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month, Committeeman Stoll.
Great, thanks. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the Township of Millburn. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who participate in recreation programs. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Park and Recreation's programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas the Parks and Recreation increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community and is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month. And now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Millburn and the County of Essex, State of New Jersey, recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, claims July as Park and Recreation Month in the Township of Millburn.
This is the fourth year in a row we've declared July Parks and Recreation Month in Millburn. By doing this, they've given the rec department another avenue for promoting their programs throughout the summer as they gear up for the busy fall season. The rec department has continued to grow their program, offering everything from sports to STEM to clinics, to camp, to special events, to Yankee bus rides, in addition to everything they do at the pool and at the golf course. On behalf of the Rec Commission and the Rec Department, thank you for recognizing the importance of park and recreation in Millburn. This year's theme is let's work together, let's build together, and let's play together. Thank you.
And on a little side note, right now, all our programs, we are at 100% capacity. So what the township needs and what the township has to go forward for generations to come, we need new fields, we need turf fields, and what also we need is more parent participation. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, reports. Maybe it's like, you want to start?
All right, so first up, affordable housing. The fourth round housing element and fair share plan is up on the municipal website, our township website, and it will be presented at the planning board meeting tomorrow. TC is scheduled to take action on it at a special public TC meeting. It will be on Thursday, June 26th at 5 p.m. SID subcommittee. Michael and I met with some members of the SID board and their attorney. It was a productive conversation about potentially making changes to SID, and more conversations will follow. EC, tonight, big night, all been waiting for. We're going to be voting on the seasonal leaf blower restriction, so stay tuned for that. Planning board, the planning board met in closed session and then publicly took a vote and decided to get its own independent engineer as opposed to using the township engineer for future proceedings. So the RFP process is going to be underway. I've also worked with a handful of planning board members and some of the DC members here to identify deficiencies in our zoning code And we're gonna begin tightening up those zoning codes significantly. And the first zoning related ordinance is up for first read later tonight. That's all I have.
Committeeman Cosgrove?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Report back on the tree preservation committee is looking at adding additional meetings to their agenda. I had a meeting with them the other day, and then we have a meeting, full meeting this Thursday. Historic preservation's been quiet. There was no meeting. Thank you.
Committeeman Stoller?
Sure. Special Improvement District, Town Hall Plaza's back in for its second summer season of live music, food, games, and family fun. There's gonna be music every Friday and Saturday night from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. Starting this coming weekend. This weekend we have Chris Turner and Clearstream on Friday. It's a local band Poet Section on Saturday. Next Saturday will be a special event instead of music. It's local 10-year-old DJ LeBrock will be playing music for kids at the road party. Additionally, Explore has raised over $14,000 in sponsorship for Town Hall Plaza. I want to thank the sponsors, always do that, Concierge Pediatrics, as well as Atlantic Federal Credit Union, By Design Kitchen, and Bath Gem Dental, and Veterinary Emergency Group, Art of Problem Solving, Live Breads, and the Footer Financial Group of Janie Montgomery Scott. BOE, Board of Education Liaison. Great news, the BOE and the teachers agreed on a new 3-year contract. That was announced late last night. Those details will come out shortly, but everyone's happy, and that's, we can cement that. Joint facilities, we had a meeting actually today, a sub-meeting. We're reviewing feasibility studies and created an ad hoc group to formulate the proposal for new fields and looking at the fields behind the high school. So that's moving along. Alex, I'll defer to you on Mountain Valley Emergency. Flood mitigation, ton of work being done here. Van Winkle, which is the Glenwood area, Hydros started their work on looking at retention solutions. That's on the West Branch Orange Reservoir. The numbers have come back. We're expected to drop the risk of flood downtown from 25 to 10%, 10 to 15% following the Orange Reservoir completion. And then the Gilbert pump fell over. Milburn, and this was actually great news, found out on Monday. And a big thanks to everyone involved. And the mayor announced this at the Flood Mitigation Committee. She actually brought State Senator John McKeon on to announce that we're pursuing a $2 million state grant to replace the money, the federal money for the Gilbert Place pump. So we should see that coming. Decisions expected in, I believe, July. And this is the kind of support we need from the state and from the tax dollars we pay. Affordable housing, as always, we support and contribute. We like one affordable housing, but I'm going to defer to council on that. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor?
Sure. So, Mr. Sacramendi's already covered the planning board, the zoning code, and the SID meeting, and Mr. Stoller has covered the field. So that leaves me, I guess, to talk about the library. We met for the June meeting. The renovation of the second floor continues on schedule. The library is closed for this week because some of the work needs to be done without the public being in the building for safety purposes. The Arboretum met to vote on and agree to their strategic goals, which are quantifiable and will be implemented over the next 3 years. And then lastly, I attended a bunch of events. We raised the Pride flag last week. Today I attended a Juneteenth presentation in the Bauer Center, and the third Eagle Scouts Court of Honor. So pretty busy time this time of year.
Thank you. I just have a couple of things. Senior programming, a lot of it's going to take place at the American Legion over the summer. They're going to call it Workshop Wednesdays. Yoga, stress release, crafts, line dancing. On Tuesday, August fifth, the AARP is going to be sponsoring a program called CarFit. I believe it's taking place up at Giro. They're gonna have an occupational therapist come in that's going to help our seniors, make sure that their mirrors are lined up right, and that their seats are positioned right, and to make sure that the cars are fit for them. There's also, senior, water aerobics. Also, the Senior Citizen Committee put a survey together, a Google survey online. I left a flyer there that's got the QR code if anyone wants to scan it. Basically asking some questions of our seniors, just trying to get a gauge of if there's something that the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee is missing. Hopefully we'll hit a lot of seniors in town with it. It's at Town Hall, it's at the library. There's a copy here, like I said, with a QR code on it. Also, our Human Services Coordinator has left, so we are without one for now until we get a new one. She, in the period of January through March, had 31 cases of assistance during that period, 10 of them being seniors. She provided them some pool discounts, some summer program discounts, SNAP assistance, what else? Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board met. What's going to be going on there over the summer with a CDBG grant? We're going to be, or Township's gonna be installing curb ramps. I think Mr. McDonald went over this before, the different, 6 different streets. Hobart, Coniston, Hobart and North Road, Hobart South Terrace, Hobart and Taylor Road North, Blaine with Church, Blaine at Rector, Ridgewood at Ivy Terrace. That's happening over the summer. What else? We'll catch anything on this. And finally, since this is our last meeting, I guess this month, I just want to congratulate the staff and the faculty of the district that's retiring this year, and of course, our senior class of 2025. And the pride flag raising event last week was very well attended. We had a nice day, and then this afternoon before here, Deputy Mayor Cohen and I attended the Juneteenth celebration. It was also very nice with a lot of students from the, what was that club called at the high school? I already forgot.
The Black Student
Union and Black Americans of Milburn Short Hills, NAACP of Maplewood and the Oranges, and a speaker from Seton Hall. So that was a very nice afternoon. And that's all.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple brief reports and notices. One is just so the public is aware that on Monday, June 23rd, will be the President's Cup. Anybody that's familiar with this event, this takes place in downtown of Milburn and shuts down the downtown of Milburn for a race. So if you're planning on being downtown, I would and not involved in that race, I would plan on being there at a different time. Also just giving some awareness well ahead of time, but with the Annie Says project that is taking place at the corner of Essex and Milburn in July, there will be a lane closure by the site for approximately 3 weeks. The township will communicate as that does take place. There will be police presence. There will be a one lane closure. On Sunday, June 22nd at 4 p.m. in Taylor Park at the entrance by Taylor Street, there will be a dedication of the Forgotten Victory Channel kiosk, which will be, show the significance that Milburn and this area played in the Revolutionary War. So for those that are interested in the history of the town and want to attend, Sunday, June 22nd at 4 p.m. Will be the unveiling of that kiosk. Just a point of clarification, last Thursday, the township presented the police department staffing study, which can be found on the website of the township under our projects page, in addition to the presentation that took place, and video is up on the YouTube channel. However, I just wanted to point out clarification that I think there was stated or misconstrued, even by the presenter that was at the meeting, that the study calls for a reallocation of staff within the police department from patrol to special services. And that it does project that the township will need 2 additional officers come 2029. But again, it is saying that we should add to our special services, that there are things within those, particularly the detective bureau, who have a large caseload that could use an additional supervisor, and that should be reallocated through patrol. Again, this is a staffing study, there's recommendations, it is not, but it provided a lot of good information and provides a lot of good information to the township committee, and to the public as well. So I just wanted to make that point of clarification. As far as Mountain Valley goes, we are currently continuing to explore. We signed the lease with New Providence, so Mountain Valley Communications Center has a home for the next 10 years. However, we continue to do the work to find a solution that involves Milburn and Summit as whether it's a shared service or a joint meeting, continuing that, but that our 2 communities, our like-minded communities, continue to provide those services together as it relates to dispatch. And so that exploration continues, particularly, Summit currently has the space potentially available to house a dispatch center. So they are looking at what might be possible in their brand new firehouse. So we'll have Community Stoller and myself will have continued updates on that and the progress of that. It's still very early on, but the good news is that center will be in New Providence, where it's been located for the last 10 years for the foreseeable future until a solution is vetted out. And as far as PSAP goes, not much more to add except for that we did receive a Safe Routes to Transit grant. We are looking to appoint a traffic consultant to help us as it relates to meeting with the public, getting input from the public at that eastbound side of the Short Hills train station, going through the plans and developing a plan that we can utilize that grant funding for. So that's forthcoming.
Thank you. Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. For 3rd round fair share housing, on June 6th, there was a hearing. The township was represented by special counsel, McMahon, Bauman, Scotland. At that hearing, there were 2 motions which the court decided. One was a motion to enforce the court's prior order, which ordered the township of Milburn to enter into a pilot agreement with RPM for the DPW site. The township filed a cross motion for the court to reconsider the alternate site analysis. That was when the township had a hearing in which we proposed alternate sites than the DPW site to fulfill our fair share housing need. And the court determined that the DPW site was the proper site. The court granted the motion to enforce RPM's order. The court deems the pilot agreement in full force and effect. The court further reaffirmed that the redevelopment agreement is in full force effect, despite the fact that this committee has never approved it. The court ordered this committee to pass resolutions adopting the pilot agreement and the redevelopment agreement and have those agreements executed. So that's pending before this committee as a court order. As to the cross motion for reconsideration, the court denied that application in its entirety. So the next step is we still don't have full compliance in the 3rd round. The 2 outstanding items were the redevelopers agreement and the pilot agreement, which arguably are fully satisfied. I'm having a call this week with Fair Share Housing Corporation, our special master, and RPM, who had those outstanding items. We're hopeful to get compliance in the 3rd round, which will allow the township to appeal any rulings in the 3rd round. As the public may recall, we went to the appellate division following our denial of the alternate site. And at that time, the appellate division found that it wasn't right because we didn't have a final order yet. So once we have compliance, we'll have a final order and we'll be able to go to the appellate division as of right. That's my full report. The only other thing Committeeman Saccomondi mentioned that the planning board will be adopting our fair share housing element. And we'll have a special meeting later where this committee will be endorsing that fair share housing element. When it comes back to this committee, this committee doesn't have any alternatives, can't change it. This is a function of the planning board. So if you have questions, the planning board is really the place to go when it comes back to this committee. It'll be an endorsement of what the planning board adopted. So I just want to make that clarification. And I'm willing to take any questions. Thank you.
Public comment. When invited to speak to offer your comments, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and whether you are a Millburn resident and or property or business owner. Please do not provide the full address, stating our meetings are recorded and readily available to the public. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers shall limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there is 30 seconds remaining. A reminder that this is not a time for dialogue or to debate a matter, and this is the time during our business meeting for the public to offer comments. I will now open the public
Good evening, Mayor Romano, Deputy Mayor Cohen, and members of the Millburn Township Committee. My name is Vanita Gangwal. I'm a resident of Millburn and a member of the Millburn Environmental Commission. But today I'm here representing Millburn Climate Action Group, a citizen volunteer group that was founded in 2019, and which seeks to make Millburn an earth-aware community and drive sustainability initiatives through individual and collective action. You'll find members of this group painstakingly sort their trash at home and bring unrecyclable plastic to ShopRite and their organic waste to our Millburn food recycling program. You'll find the members set up water stations in different community events like Oktoberfest and Strawberry Festival, just so we can eliminate plastic water bottle waste. You'll find the members of this group tending to community gardens and creating native pollinator habitats in their own homes. And they do all of this at a lot of personal time commitment and cost, not so because they enjoy it or they gain anything personally out of it. They do it because they know all of these actions create a huge positive externality for our shared environment and our community, not just for the present, but for our future generation. So it's no surprise that members of this community stand very, very strongly in support of the ordinance 2707-25, which would restrict gas powered leaf blowers during the winter and summer months. So I would like to read a very brief statement from the members of this group. On behalf of Millburn Climate Action, I urge you to support ordinance 2707-25. This ordinance is a fair compromise that many residents have advocated over the past 5 years. It will make our neighborhoods quieter, our air cleaner, and our environment healthier, while still allowing GPLBs during peak fall and spring cleanups. As a voter and a member of Millburn Climate Action Group, a group of over 150 residents and students, I want you to know that we are paying close attention to this issue and to your leadership. We believe this is the right thing to do for public health and our shared environment, and we will remember which candidates support positive change in our community. Thank you for consideration and for standing with Millburn residents who care about public health and the shared environment. Thank you, and I would like to hand over this letter, which has already been signed by over 50 members, and the signatures keep coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eric Osserman, longtime Short Hills resident. I'm here again as a reminder with the reopening of the Town Hall Plaza. It's high time we honor the memory of Anthony Bracca with a sign saying Anthony Bracca Way. We have the technology to do that. And I don't know what the holdup is, but with the reopening, I urge you to put this in place, and we can invite Mrs. Bracca and her family. This is a man who, real salt of the earth guy, died at 48 tragically. I know Mayor Romano knew him well, and I hope we can honor his memory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Robin Blumenthal. I'm a nearly 30-year resident of Milburn. And I'm commenting on the proposed new ordinances regarding houses of worship. The last house of worship was established approximately 60 years ago in this town. And since then, there's only been one application, which began 30 years ago, and that is for the High Center, and that is an Orthodox Jewish house of worship, which would be the only Orthodox Jewish house of worship in this town. So 30 years, we've been trying to get a place to an official house of worship. So my concern is that Milburn Township has not really done anything to help the community establish this house of worship. And I'm wondering why Milburn is looking to adopt new ordinances that make it more difficult for a house of worship to be established, especially when the grandfathered houses of worship have received numerous variances to be able to continue and have much less property than the one that is proposed for the High Center. So, unfortunately, the only conclusion I can draw is that Milburn discriminates against Orthodox Jews. I don't know what else to say. 30 years. In addition, Buddhists got a Buddhist center, approval. I don't think it was official house of worship, but to this day, Orthodox Jews do not have an official house of worship. And I'm trying to understand why this board should continue to stonewall us is the only way that I can really, the only conclusion I can draw. And in addition, over the past 30 years that we've been trying to do this, the township through the zoning board, planning board now, and now the township committee has put every possible obstacle in our way to prevent an Orthodox Jewish house of worship to be established. It is beyond upsetting, to me, obviously discriminatory, and really goes against everything that this country stands for, which was established because of freedom to worship. And as a longtime taxpayer, I would really like to understand this better, and I would like some answers from the township committee. Thank you.
Deputy, your name?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Ricky Bogomilsky. It has not gone unnoticed that the township recently denied an application for a house of worship under less restrictive zoning regulations than those currently being proposed. This raises a troubling question. How can these new, more burdensome regulations be reconciled with the spirit and letter of the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, known as RLUIPA, and longstanding New Jersey land use law, both of which recognize houses of worship as inherently beneficial use that warrant protection? RLUIPA was enacted specifically to prevent local governments from imposing land use regulations that substantially burden religious exercise without a compelling justification. Increasing restrictions on religious institutions, particularly after having already been denied an application under more lenient rules, appears to run counter to both the equal treatment and least restrictive means standards outlined in federal law. What compelling government interest can Milburn answer to a judge of why a house of worship needs a 50-foot buffer when every house of worship in town not only does not have any 50-foot buffer, it doesn't have any buffer at all. Yet the new houses of worship who want to apply have to have a 50-foot buffer. That would be a clear violation of RLUIPA. Is Milburn interested in helping houses of worship establish themselves in this town? Or are they more interested in just litigating and being in court, fighting not one, not two, but maybe 3 or more RLUIPA cases? How would Milburn Township be able to answer a judge of why a house of worship is required to have 25% lot coverage, not 35, which is currently on the books, when every other house of worship in this town has coverage 65, 70, 75, 80, even 85 to 90% lot coverage. Yet, any new house of worship that would like to establish themselves in town would only be allowed 25% lot coverage. That is a clear violation of RLUPA. In 2024, the DOJ sent letters to every municipality, including Milburn, instructing their professionals and township officials to be familiar with RLUPA. I ask this board, are you familiar with RLUPA? Has your attorney advised you what RLUPA is? Because introducing these new ordinances will only be challenged in court another time as a violation of RLUPA. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jeffrey Tell, I'm in the public section. As my custom, I incorporate by reference an email that I sent to you with various questions and chronology and various documents. I'm basically going to be focusing on some of the resolutions on consent and non-consent. First, on the bill list, the last time we've seen a defined summary for municipal attorney was in April, and that was for January and February. When will we see the March, April, and May time summaries for our municipal attorney? On the non-consent agenda, there's an extension of the lease agreement between the town and B'nai Jeshurun for field. I understand that. However, the extension is not attached. So I don't know how fiduciaries could understand what the new terms are if it's not attached. Also, I believe that when we did the first lease agreement, because of the local lands and building law, we approved it by ordinance. Why are we doing this by resolution? I don't believe municipal law resolution can amend a ordinance. And I don't know why we're delegating all the ability to delegate to negotiate the terms to the mayor. I think you, as fiduciaries of public trust, had to approve the terms. The last one is regarding this redevelopment plan study going out for an RFP. We really had to go back to what happened almost in 2008 when we did a study, but we never did a plan. And when we, in March of 2021, when we contemplated going out for redevelopment studies, and I think you might want an updated opinion from various professionals. The professionals who were involved in March of 2021 are no longer involved with this. Also, I think you should be telling us whether the redevelopment plan will have condemnation power. If the law has changed significantly since 2008 and 2021, such as like in West Orange, where they had the library, where the state Supreme Court said that the building was not obsolete, and whether we're going out, and I think the public should know why at this time are we going out for a redevelopment plan study for really properties that are located by the town hall. Also, just finally, I'll give a little heads up. There's an ordinance later talking about apartment definitions. Are we closing the loophole that we found out last year, where we had like 4 separate buildings with carports? Will that be avoided? That like on one single property that's not subdivided, there'll be 4 separate such 4 separate buildings connected by a carport. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Mike Scarlin. I'm a Melbourne resident and I live in the Wyoming district. I'm here to support the seasonal restriction on the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. Those of you who know the area, the Wyoming district, will know that the lot sizes are quite small. And sometimes I see 2, sometimes 3 gas-powered leaf blowers working one small lot. It seems to me that that is massive overkill. It makes it impossible to work. I use my ears to work and to play. It's very difficult. Sometimes it feels like the US Army is out there on maneuvers, in fact. I would really urge you guys to support this seasonal restriction because it seems to me it's a very reasonable one. And we all like to think we're reasonable. I think this has been worked on really, really well by all of the parties involved. I'm fully in support of it because, first of all, alternative equipment and technology exists. It's out there, so we can make use of it. That's a good thing. And I think overall, it's going to give residents some respite from the noise and the toxic smells, and it's going to give landscapers a chance to experiment and adapt. So please adopt this proposal. It would be great for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anita Goldberg. I'm from the South Mountain area. I'd like to thank the Environmental Committee for their hard work on the leaf blowing ordinance. I personally, as a teacher of the deaf, am aware of the noise pollution, as well as the environmental pollution perpetuated by the gas blowers. I'm also concerned for the safety of our children who walk to and from school and those who wait on the curbs for camp and school buses. And all those young children bicycling in our area. The blowers may obscure the sound of traffic, compromise safety. The ordinance considers our health, safety, and quality of life outdoors, as well as the livelihood of landscapers. Please vote to support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, I'm Tammy Kwong. I am a longtime Melbourne resident, a very active voter, and ordinance 2707 is very, very important to me. I just want to publicly thank those who very carefully and respectfully crafted the ordinance, and I hope that you, the committee, will pass it and make Melbourne one of the best townships that can be. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bart Gordon. I've lived in Millburn for 32 years. And I read the minutes of a planning board meeting. And I'm very concerned that a member of the planning board and the township committee in discussing why the High Center plans weren't approved, basically said that even if the High Center agreed to make changes, we can't trust their credibility. We have proof that these people are not reliable and they will make the changes that they say they're going to. Are you calling a Jewish organization a bunch of liars? And that's why you don't want them to expand in your town? I mean, I've done construction on my house. I can't do anything. You can't do a step without someone from the town approving it. What are you referring to? What could this even relate to except discrimination? And this is hatred. This is calling a group of people liars. This is not what this town is about. I mean, this really upsets me. Why is this person on our planning board and our town committee? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is David Jacobs, and I'm a 19-year resident of the township. I'm a proud senior this week, and so I'll fill in my form. I also work from home. I've lived in Old Short Hills where the lawns rule, and so do the loud machines of landscapers in service of their clients. I've also lived in a smaller subdivision of historic Wyoming section where there's less grass, but many landscapers with the same equipment. The issue of noise is even more acute, as we all know. Businesses certainly do need to thrive, but not always at the expense of quality of life issues. Indeed, we know there's a careful balance. Needless to say, the gas-powered leaf blowers do create an annoying quality of life issue in so many ways that we've all been talking about for quite some time. And in this case, there are alternatives. I really would like to thank the EC. They developed over a long period of time an inclusive approach to research the issue, create a reasonable compromise that will allow for a seasonal restriction of gas-powered leaf blowers. And I want to give my full support to the ordinance 2707-25. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Alan Rush. I'm a longtime Milburn resident and voter. My wife and I have lived in the Wyoming part of town for over 3 decades now. Wonderful place to live, and we have very little to complain about. But there's one issue I do want to mention here. It's the noise and exhaust from the gas-powered leaf blowers. So I've been very happy to know about the proposed ordinance restricting their use. And I wish to encourage the members of the Township Committee to pass it. Actually, I wish the ordinance would be a year-round ban. But at least as a seasonal prohibition, it will be a big improvement. I think the noise from these things I've experienced is so bad, it's hard to imagine their use has not already been violating existing noise laws, but I'm not familiar with that. There's also the exhaust fumes, which I can very clearly smell, as well as all the dust being kicked up. This must be very unhealthy for the landscaping company workers who appear to never be wearing any hearing or breathing protection, nor can it be good for others in proximity, including neighborhood children and the environment overall. So I'm very much in favor of this ordinance being passed. And thank you. By the way, for my own personal yard work, I use an electric leaf blower as well as a good old rake. I need to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jonathan Baxter, 12-year resident of Short Hills, and I also work from home. I'm here today to speak out against the leaf blower ordinance 270725, and the issue is that there weren't alternatives considered, not seriously anyway, and one obvious alternative that would have satisfied requirements pretty much across the board, which is low noise gas blowers. And we even had a bake-off a few weeks ago where we compared the noise levels of low noise gas blowers and battery electric blowers. And I have the results here. I've sent them to the committee, and there was no difference. The literature supports that there's no difference between low noise gas blowers. All of the arguments, this is the original literature, all of the arguments that people put forward about the noise of gas blowers are all concerned with the traditional high noise ones, not ones that have been specifically rated by the manufacturers to be low noise. In fact, in the bake-off where we were promised by the Environmental Commission that there would be a huge difference between a low noise gas blower and the battery electric blower indoors, in fact, the battery electric blower measured louder than the gas leak blower. I'm not saying that's significant, it wasn't a controlled test, but there was certainly no perceptible difference. So if you read the 5 whereas clauses that justify this ordinance, all of them are either false or misleading. Whereas the use of gas-powered leaf blowers creates a health hazard to the users of such equipment and other Township of Milburn residents by releasing harmful carbon emissions and particulate matter into the air. Well, as far as particulate matter goes, electric blowers blow just the same amount of particulate matter, that's the point, right? So that doesn't distinguish them from a low noise gas blower. And the carbon emissions, well, it's been analysed by the California Air Resources Board. That's the original literature. It's a negligible effect. Same for the next whereas, which claims that increased levels of oxygen of NOx, carbon dioxide, non-methane hydrocarbons directly contribute to a laundry list of health issues. That's true, but the question is, in the concentrations emitted by gas leaf blowers, is it a problem? And it's not. So that second one is just misleading. Whereas the harmful emissions of gas-powered leaf blowers can emit more than some truck. Again, the comparison is not relative to some other piece of equipment. The relevant comparison is is whether they actually cause harm. And the ECF cited no studies, there are no studies, there is no harm to the users of this equipment, and therefore not to residents either. And then finally on the noise issue, which is the last 2 whereas clauses, again, for low noise gas blowers, they have the same noise levels as the battery electrics. In fact, can be quieter than the battery electric blower. So none of the 5 whereas clauses here are actually justified by the underlying literature. And I think that might be a record to have 5 claims justifying an ordinance, all of which are either false or misleading. Thank you.
Hello, Peter Harrington. I'm a Milburn resident in the Short Hills area, and I'm here just to further support the ordinance for creating that seasonal restriction on the use of gas powered leaf blowers.
anything that can be done, in this area to help with noise pollution and, air pollution. This is a big part that impacts all of our lives who live in the city of Millburn. So it's a benefit for everyone. As noted before, there's technologies that exist now to be able to do it. And I'd ask the committee, I know sometimes it's difficult to make decisions to change the status quo, but I think this is an opportunity where you can all help us move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nitin Pandey. I'm a resident of Millburn. 3 years in this beautiful town. Live by a river. It's beautiful. I'm here in support of the ordinance 2707-25, supporting the seasonal restriction on the use of gas blowers. Similar reasons to what the committee has been hearing this evening. Noise, pollution, and the advancement of technology. I mean, there is technology available now where you could use these battery-powered devices, which last you long, which can be quickly charged, which are probably healthier for the person who's operating it, and is probably lighter to use as well. So it's probably making for a better experience on the part of the landscape or doing the landscape as well. And by going with the seasonal approach, I mean, the lean months when we are suggesting that, don't use gas blowers are really the months when you're not seeing that much leaf movement anyway, right? So if there are these devices which aren't gonna need a tank full of gas or not have a tank full of gas, they could still pretty much last pretty long, given that you're not, raking out a bulk of leaves during those seasons. So I believe it's a balanced compromise that takes into consideration the interests of our landscaping community as well as the interests of residents. I just wanted to bring forth those points to the committee. And thank you very much for taking up this bill, this cause. I appreciate it.
Ed Mazer, local resident. I'd like to just take a minute, first of all, to thank you for your service to the town. I'd like to comment on the proposed revisions to the House of Worship ordinance. I believe that this is a discriminatory action that's being directed against only one potential house of worship that has tried to establish a house of worship in this community for more than 30 years. Mrs. Bogomilsky referred to a letter from the Justice Department dated March 19, 2024, that was sent to every municipality in the country, including presumably Millburn. In this, it reads in part, it heard testimony that houses of worship, particularly those of minority religions and startup churches, were disproportionately affected in an adverse way, and in fact were often treated worse than secular places of assembly like community centers, etc. I think that certainly describes the High Center and what has happened in this community, that it's been asked to, even before this, to meet a standard that no one else has been asked to do. The letter goes on, to date, the department has opened over 155 formal investigations and has also filed 36 friend of court briefs addressing the interpretation and application of RLUIPA in privately filed lawsuits. Millburn has the distinction of being one of the few, if not the only one, that was subject to both a long-running private investigation by the Justice Department in Washington and also in Newark, and also being the recipient of an amicus brief opposing Millburn's efforts to have a case dismissed. Millburn spent several $1 million defending the DOJ investigation, and it appears that there's going to be significant exposure on the rejection of the current appeal of the zoning board High Center application. The current zoning that you have, I believe is violative of RLUPA. This is only going to be even more violative of RLUPA. I would suggest that you have this reviewed by your counsel and you have a detailed sit-down discussion with him before you adopt this legislation, this ordinance. Thank you.
Good evening, excuse my throat. Excuse me, my name is Bill Brazel. I'm a resident of the South Mountain neighborhood here and a member of the Environmental Commission. I'm also rising to support the restriction, the seasonal restriction on the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. This is a very reasonable restriction, as has been discussed. I just want to respond to the claims that have been made. I have emailed the Township Committee members about this. The claims that low noise gas blowers are somehow an adequate substitute, and to just let the commission know that when I tried to find one for a demonstration here in the state of New Jersey, I went all over New Jersey trying to find one that we could use in our town for a demonstration. And I went to the biggest landscape rental organizations in the state, and they said, Bill, we don't carry those. No one wants them. And the reason no one wants them is they're more expensive than normal gas blowers and they're much less powerful. So there's no point in owning them. It's also not true at all that the studies that have been cited show no harm on the air pollution caused by these. I commissioned a doctor of toxicology to analyze the statements that have been made by opponents to this ordinance, and he found that they were clearly misleading. I'll say just a few quick examples. One, the claim has been made that there is negligible air pollution that is not damaging to people's health. That is not true. The results are actually clearly a public health concern as laid out by the California Air Resources Board. The report, the opponent claimed that the Moms Clean Air Force report was misleading when it said that the operating gas-powered leaf blowers could raise cancer risks. The toxicology doctor said to me that operators of gas-powered devices could indeed potentially double their current cancer risks from the benzene and butadiene, which are estimated to raise it to 115 possible additional cancers per million that are exposed. Therefore, that quote is not misleading, but can reasonably be interpreted based on the California Air Resources Board. In addition, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has found that the sources of ozone precursors that are put out by gas-powered leaf blowers are indeed the largest contributor to the state's ozone problem. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection notes that ground level ozone is an air pollutant known to cause a number of health effects and negatively impact air quality in the environment in the state of New Jersey. It can irritate any set of lungs, but anybody with lung-related deficiencies has to worry particularly. Thank you so much, Township Committee members. I know you've thought a lot about this issue. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jim Fines. I'm a longtime South Mountain resident. My friend here from Wyoming, South Mountains, where the houses are very close together. If I time it just right, I can hear a leaf blower for hours on end when the house is burning. And I don't like that time it just right. I majored in economics. This is pollution. Pollution is what's called a negative externality. It's a bad byproduct. Legitimate economic activity sometimes produces lousy byproducts, like a factory opening up on a river, dumping sludge into the river. People that used to enjoy fishing and swimming can't anymore. Their quality of life goes down. This is what governments do. They regulate pollution for the good of all. The factory owner may have to invest in filters and cleaners and things like that, but it helps the quality of life of the entire community. Gotta stop the bad byproduct. I'm happy to have followed Bill. You heard the kind of things that this committee did. Commissioning studies, talking to different people, finding out what different products do. We take for granted a lot what these volunteer committees do. It's not sitting down and saying, geez, I wonder what a good ordinance would look like. They did a ton of research, they held tons of meetings, they did a lot of work, and they came up with a compromise. I would love to never hear another leaf blower again in my life. I'm willing. I am more than happy to settle for a 3-month respite during the summer. I think it's very fair. I think it's reasonable, and I think it solves a lot of the pollution and noise problems that we've been talking about. I'll just close by, we all love quiet. We all love clean air. I don't think there's an argument about something like that. And, you know, going out on my deck in the morning, a piping hot cup of coffee and my newspaper, and hearing the birds chirp with the little Merlin app on, so I know what birds they are. There's nothing better. And I am not, color me crazy, but I am not at that moment hoping for a jackhammer to open up next door. I'm really not. It's something we all love. I think you can at least sympathize with that. And I think at least, I hope you will vote for this. Thank you very much.
I can't reach this, so maybe I will be loud enough. I'm Radhika Iyengar, a Wyoming resident, and have been coming to this township to make a comment on this ban on gas leaf blowers since probably over 5 years. So there's nothing new that I want to say today. Again, to say that I am for this restriction. Please make a vote for the environment in Melbourne, and I really would appreciate if we can all think about the environment and people's health and vote for a ban today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rabbi Ben Loboganowski, resident 33 years of Milburn Township, and I work in town too. I'm here because of the ordinance Mr. Sacramenti indicated earlier was going to be considered. I'm also here first to stand up for an insult that was given in public to a member of the Township Committee's professionals, the engineer Martha, who I have found over the 30 years that we've been dealing with her to always be not only professional, but also knowledgeable. And I'll quote from the official minutes, I also have serious concerns about the accuracy and efficacy of the professionals that are supposed to be working on behalf of this board. That is a quote by Mr. Sacramenti. I believe he should probably have recused himself from the with obvious bias there. I will say that the township, as Mr. Mazur said earlier, has spent millions of dollars of taxpayer money. And there is a song that goes, there were 10 little ones in a bed. One said, roll over, they all rolled over, one fell out, and it counts down the little kid's song. What tends to happen, or all too often, is you have 1, 2, 3, 4 gadflies get up. And they say things, they're not informed. They live 1.5 to 2.5 miles away. And then somebody decides, well, we need an ordinance to fix that because they appear time in, time out. They take 2 bites of the apple, they come to the planning board meeting, they come to the township committee meeting, they make up stuff. And then Mr. Sacramenti can say, it's been proven. It has not been proven that we are unreliable. Nobody spoke to me, nobody asked me what my side of the story was. And it's frankly libel, bordering on libel anyway. And I'm here because I realize that if you don't get up and make a fuss, you don't exist, in Mr. Sacramenti's view, anyway. So I'm here to put my foot down to tell you that it's on an evening when we hear that the judge is about to slap Milburn with a huge, huge loss. And I'm not in favor at all, by any stretch of the imagination, of the fair share housing in the dump. Ill-conceived, ill-advised, costs a lot of money. You guys are about to do it again. And the question is, who is running the ship? Who is in charge of this boat? Thank you.
Good evening, Leah Cruz, 25-year Short Hills resident.
I agree with Mayor Romano. I love the meeting where the police get their awards. When I see them up here, I'm so grateful for their service. And as Frank said, crime is down. I don't have facts regarding that, but it does feel like it's down, and so that's a great thing. But I have to ask about the police blotter. It's been 1 month and there has been no update. As crime is down, as you said, but I'm sure it's not down where there's nothing to report. So I do check, and I just wonder, why it's just not done on a consistent basis. Thank you.
Jean Pasternak, resident. I want to agree with Eric Osterman on the Baraka Plaza naming. I think that's a great idea and I hope it happens. Also on the police study, I have a question. I don't understand why there was an elimination of getting public input on the study. I still didn't hear a clear explanation as to why that was eliminated. And also the train station, Short Hills train station project, what form will public input take? I have that question. I also want to say that I want to commend the planning board for their thoroughness, their flexibility. They're going far beyond the norms for applicants before them with the application by the High Center. They met for over a year on that application. They allowed multiple submissions and resubmissions. It was very difficult for members of the public who were interested to follow all these revisions that were done based on directions given to the applicant by the various experts and members of the planning board. They allowed them to go toward a conforming application. It was the applicant's choice not to go with all those recommendations, and therefore it did not conform and it did not pass. It is their job to adhere to our master plan as a land use board, and that is exactly what they did, and I thank them as a resident. I also am very troubled to hear a leader in our community, in our religious community, the rabbi who just spoke, calling members of this community gadflies to come and choose to speak both before yourselves as well as the planning board and get labeled as such. That is not what I would call neighborly. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Venkat Bala, resident in 101 Old Hollow Road. I'm here to talk about the proposed ordinance for gas blowers being removed. As you are aware about it, after the pandemic and people returning back to work, I live on the main county road that connects 78 to 280, and there has been a lot of gas vehicles that travels on this road. Typical size of a gas blower is 150 cc to 300 cc, and most of these vehicles are like 4 cylinders, 2.4 liters, and as high as like 150 or 250 or 350 that go up to 4.5 liters. So you're talking like a scale that is enormous that is there. Although it is a step in the direction to conserve environment, protect the people who are working, I think so like that is the function of federal authorities such as EPA who are going to look into these aspects and pass related measures. As a precursor to banning of gas blowers for these specific time periods, would also the committee members consider certain roadblocks to be put in so that there is going to be a reduction in traffic that would improve the quality of life for people living on Old Short Hills Road or on Melbourne Avenue. So what starts as an idea and being a proposal for removal of gas blower, although it is friendly as well as environmentally patronaging, but we've seen that in the long-term run is like trying to put out a hand to stop a tsunami. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Good evening, everyone. Richard Cyber, local resident. I just have a few questions, not comments. Are landscapers allowed to work on Sunday in town? The landscapers in town have to be licensed to work in this town? Garbage cans. Are they put out the night before and the next day when the garbage is picked up? How long do people have to put the garbage cans back behind their house? Is it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, or 4 days? And I just want to second I hope for today's Tuesday, and we have a local sign maker according to Township Deputy Mayor Michael Cohen, then it would be a nice surprise to see Rockaway posted for the opening of the weekend music. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Township Committee members. My name is Matt Greller. I'm a Township resident and member of the Environmental Commission, or EC. I'm here in support of leaf blower ordinance 2707. This ordinance is a compromise. It's only a seasonal restriction. It has the full support of the EC, which does not now, nor in the near future, support implementing a year-round ban. The EC learned from the best practices and pitfalls of over 200 communities nationwide with leaf blower laws. These include big cities like Baltimore, Miami, Washington, DC. But more importantly for Millburn, they include upscale communities like Scarsdale, New York, Greenwich, Connecticut, both of which have the top ranked schools in their states. They have very large properties, very expensive homes, and they also have seasonal restrictions on gas-powered leaf blowers. 6 New Jersey towns have laws on the books with seasonal restrictions: Glen Ridge, Morristown, Princeton, and South Orange. And there are 2 with year-round bans, Montclair and Maple. The EC specifically avoided the failures of Summit's short-sighted pilot project and West Orange's difficult enforcement and phased-in full ban. This ordinance is a compromise for landscapers and residents. It simply seeks to limit the use of gas-powered leaf blowers when they are used the least, the winter and the summer. But it still allows them when they're used the most, the fall and the spring. Lastly, I just want to comment on the leaf blower demonstration from May. The use of so-called low noise leaf blowers is not a viable solution. They're more expensive, they're not widely available, they're as polluting as other gas models, and they still emit low frequency sound that penetrates homes. A good analogy for the frequency issue is a loud radio from a passing car. At a distance, you can hear and you can feel the loud thumping bass, which is low frequency. But you can't understand the lyrics, which are high frequency, and they dissipate over distance. The bass travels far, it passes through windows, just like the low frequency sound from the leaf blowers. And that causes residents to complain. This is also about pollution. The pollution from these engines emit PM 2.5. We just had bad air quality days. That comes from PM 2.5. Do we want more pollution? Or do we want residents to enjoy peace and quiet? Do we want residents to enjoy summer barbecues? Do we want them to do homework at home or do their business at home? Please support cleaner and quieter winters and summers by supporting this ordinance. Thank you.
We have 2 online.
Good evening. You're muted.
Hello?
Hi,
How's that?
that's perfect.
I'm sorry. I'm in the car because I had to pick up my daughter. My name is Jonathan Schrank, and I own a local lawn maintenance service company in your municipality that services approximately 59 to 60-something homes. And I'm not gonna get into the back and forths of the arguments on pollution and sound and this and whether or not there's effective alternatives to gas versus electric. I urge you to consider putting it on the ballot and let the residents decide for themselves and not have to decipher all of the back and forths and the allegations and claims. I can talk to you about some of the claims myself, not within 3 minutes, obviously. So I emailed all of my clients in your municipality. Hopefully they'll be reaching out, but rather than go with the back and forth, just let the people decide and put it to vote if it's something that they feel it is, because there will be an impact. That everybody's trying to downplay it, but there will be an impact. So if they're okay with the impact, there's a risk versus rewards sort of a thing. Let them decide if they want that. Okay? That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mute. Hi, everyone. Start
I
video.
need your camera on.
Yep. There we
you
go.
go.
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Regina Truitt. I live in Short Hills on Hartshorn Drive, and I am zooming in from my childhood bedroom. I'm actually out of town for a family memorial service, so forgive the pink walls. I'm zooming in tonight to express several concerns about the proposed ordinance 2707-25, and also to dispel the myth that this is a partisan issue. I think I'm about to dispel that. Yeah. So my concerns begin with while this ordinance, which I hope you're still open-minded about, is well intentioned, I think there are unintended consequences that need to be considered. Landscapers will need to purchase and maintain new blowers. In spite of the seasonal restriction, they will still need something for the summer and winter. And they'll need, of course, batteries, which will wear out over time with repeated charging and discharging. Additionally, the completion of each lawn will take longer due to the time needed to recharge batteries and the decreased efficiency of battery operated equipment. The cost of new equipment, charging, and increased man hours will be passed on to homeowners. The financial hardships will, of course, be particularly burdensome for those residents of our township that are on fixed incomes, such as senior citizens. Yard debris is a year-round concern. It's an issue that has both health and safety implications in the spring and summer. Vegetable and plant material can create fire hazards during the hot, dry months, harbor ticks, including those that carry Lyme disease, increase mold, and hinder the evaporation of standing water where mosquitoes breed. The safety imperative of removing debris from paths, walkways, and steps in warm weather is obvious, as is the need for blowing snow and ice in the winter. At present, no matter what you've heard, there is no electric or battery operated leaf blower that offers the same sustained power and durable capabilities of units using a combustion engine. While we all might wish otherwise, the facts are what they are. The alternative technology doesn't yet exist. Hopefully it will someday, but we're not there. As for the concerns with noise, lawnmowers, snowblowers, chainsaws, generators, I think someone mentioned a jackhammer, construction equipment, and outdoor summer evening parties are also loud, but I hope the next move won't be to ban these as well. In addition, as sound waves are reflected and absorbed and dissipate over distance, the noise from leaf blowers can vary based on lot size and the number of blowers operating at the same time. The presence of solid barriers such as walls, structures, building fences, etc., and trees further decrease the decibels that actually reach your ears. Unless you're standing outside next to a blower, you may be annoyed, but your hearing will not be damaged. Further, if the battery operated blowers are mandated, if gas powered blowers are forbidden in a seasonal
Thank you.
manner.
I'm sorry, your time is up. I'm sorry.
All right, I'll email you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, I will now close public comment. We will start over, would you like to respond to any public comment?
Are we gonna have discussion period on the guest list?
Yeah.
We're gonna actually, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole at this point. You know, the only comment I have is, you know, I'm sitting here listening to some of the comments on Relupa and others. You know, Milburn should not be a place where anyone feels that they're being treated unfairly or feel any modicum of hate. I just want to put that on the record. I haven't confirmed or gone down and seen all the remarks, et cetera, but you know, right now we're about community. There's a lot that brings us all together, and it starts with our children and our neighbors and the community, why we all moved here. So I just want to make sure we all remember that when we're discussing these topics, because we are a family in Milburn Short Hills.
We're gonna talk about the guest speakers later. I had stuff to say there. I certainly agree with Committeeman Stoller. And the zoning ordinance that we're considering is for it's not for particular, it's for conditional uses. So it's religious institutions that are building and schools that are building in a residential zone. It would not apply in a commercial zone, and that was a crux of a lot of the argument at the panel. So I just wanted to clear that.
Committeeman Sutton.
All right. So I want to be clear so that everyone hears it directly from me. Milburn does not discriminate against anyone based on their religion. That means the planning board doesn't discriminate against anyone based on their religion. The township committee doesn't discriminate against anyone based on their religion. And I think the individuals that came up and made claims to the contrary are misguided. So I'm going to address some of this. Ms. Blumenthal, you indicated that for the past 30 years, the High Center has been trying to build a house of worship. Yes, that is true. However, you failed to mention is that every one of the applications the High Center has put before the township have had problems. When you tried to build on Milburn Ave, they would have required dozens of variances. And presumably, the applicants knew that going into it. They bought a piece of property that was not the right size, and they tried to build something too big for that size of property. So the zoning board, I think, rejected that at the time. Then it's my understanding that the applicant came back with an even larger design. And the zoning board again rejected that. Fast forward to the past 8 months. The High Center came and presented an application to the planning board. They claimed it was fully conforming. It turns out it wasn't. It did not conform with our buffer requirements. The applicant was given every single opportunity to make changes. I can't remember the time that we've had an application in front of the planning board that was allowed to submit as many revisions as this one did. The planning board bent over backwards trying to accommodate this application. And in the end, it came down to the fact that the applicant was unwilling to erect a properly sized fence and build a proper buffer. So that was denied. So to say that the township or the planning board or the zoning board or any of the township committee members are biased against them is ludicrous. If you simply follow the rules and follow the ordinances, then you can build what you want to build. But you have to do so within the boundaries of the zoning code. Additionally, the changes that we're making to the zoning code tonight are not designed to target any individual, any religion, anything like that. The reason that we're making these changes is because we have identified deficiencies in the zoning code that affect single-family neighborhoods. Okay, if you have a commercial building or a building that looks like a commercial building going into a single-family residential neighborhood, you want to make sure that there's proper buffers between that commercial building and the residences. Why should individuals
who are in a single family neighborhood and bought into that single family neighborhood, knowing it was gonna be a single family neighborhood, be subjected to headlights coming into their windows at all hours from parking lots. It's just, it doesn't make sense and we shouldn't allow it, and that's why we're gonna update our zoning code. Additionally, I'd like to point out that many of the existing houses of worship in town predated the residences around them. That's just a simple fact. They were here before the houses were around them. So when the houses were erected and people moved into those houses, they moved into those houses knowing what was in the neighborhood, right? But if you have a commercial building all of a sudden being dropped into a residential neighborhood, that's gonna cause some consternation amongst the residents. And we need to make sure that our zoning codes are designed to protect against, unnecessary encroachment on these single-family residences. If you wanted to build a conforming house of worship, go right ahead. Just make sure it follows the zoning codes. It's quite simple. All right, we're going to talk about the leaf blowers in a bit, so I will defer on that. And Mr. Gordon, I believe you misquoted me. I think you should go back to the transcripts of that planning board meeting, and I believe you should rewatch the video, because if I recall, what was said at the meeting was that evidence was presented that may call into question the credibility of the applicant, and testimony was given that may call into question the credibility of the applicant. So before you go misquoting, members on this dais, make sure you have all your facts correct. That's all I have to say, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments?
No comments. I do have comments on the leaf blower orders, but I'll save those for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor. There was a question from a resident regarding resolution 25-169, which is the extension of the lease. That lease was adopted by ordinance 2652-23. It was a 2-year term. Within the very terms of the lease, it provided for a 5-year extension. All the terms remain the same. The rent is $2,000 a month, and the rest of the lease remains unchanged. The case law is clear that if a term or extension is provided for and approved by an ordinance, you only need a resolution to execute that extension. So that's why it's being done by resolution tonight. And that's why there was no substantial negotiations done. Those negotiations took place when the original lease was adopted, and this 5-year extension was negotiated into that lease. As far as garbage, I don't know if that was a serious question, but I think it was. All garbage receptacles, pursuant to our code is 14-2.2, are to be put out no earlier than 6 p.m. on the day before garbage pickup, and they're to be returned the same day in which the garbage is picked up. So it's 6 p.m. the day before, and the day in which they're picked up, the receptacles are supposed to be brought back, and that's 14-2.2 and 2.3. As far as landscaping activities, they're currently restricted in our code to weekdays from 8 to 7, Saturdays 9 to 5. Sundays, the only people who can perform landscaping activities on Sundays are an owner, occupant, or a relative of the owner occupant of the residence. So that's what our current code states for those few questions. Nothing further.
If I can say one thing.
I forgot to add one thing. Anthony brought away, I believe that at least three of the TC members supported the renaming of the ceremonial naming of Town Hall Plaza to Anthony Brockaway. So perhaps Mr. McDonald, when it's time, it's his turn, could explain to us what the timeline will be to get that accomplished, or what steps are required for this township committee to take, if any, to move that forward. Thanks.
Anyone else? I don't know if we intended to make that a permanent sign. I think maybe just something further. I don't
Might have
know.
been seasonal.
I thought that maybe the committee installer could go back to explore and see what they wanted to do something that, it's not gonna be done this weekend, because this weekend's Friday, already, so. Something just ceremonial,
No,
just
I'm
a
in full
temporary.
agreement that something should be done, not, I think people conflated a ceremonial way to celebrate a man who has an infectious smile. A picture of this actually popped up on my Facebook with a great family that grew up here and born and grew up here in this town, so with the actual renaming of a street. So whatever needs to be done, I can do it.
Well, somebody has to just like kind of come up with an idea of what you wanna do, so.
Yeah, so I believe in other towns, they have the official street name, it stay as it is, below it, they can put the ceremonial name, and I believe that's what we had
But that's
discussed.
kind of permanent. I don't think it should be permanent.
Okay,
I
well,
think,
we could authorize it for a year and then reevaluate after.
I would just caution the township committee, and I'm not making any judgment about the individual order. But if you are gonna go down this particular road, I would suggest that you come up with some sort of policy or some sort of standard in which you are going to make future decisions regarding the naming or the ceremonial naming or memorial naming of the street. Because you will deal with this request on a consistent basis.
yeah.
Okay, so why don't we empower Alex to come up with that process of what needs to be done, with the positives, negatives, and evaluate this further. Correct, and evaluate it.
Other towns do this, it's not like we'd be the first, so
No, I
maybe we
understand,
can
but-
take a look at what they do and what their policies are to give us some insight as to what options may be available.
I know Livingston does it, because I've seen it, so that would be a good place to.
Yeah, again, I think my thought process is that you should have some sort of process or standard in which you're addressing requests like this.
All right, so let's just create the process and we'll follow it through and see where it goes. But I
We
think
can
that's all
also
we
just
can
like
do.
honor him in a meeting and invite his wife.
Right, that would be part of the process.
No, just to do that, so.
Oh.
The township committee will now consider consent agenda resolution. Are there any comments from the committee in regard to any items listed on the consent agenda? May I have a motion to approve resolution 25-157 through resolution 25-166 and resolution 25-171, which are listed under consent agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second? Roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Cullen.
Yes.
Mr. Cosgrove.
Yes.
Mr. Sacramandi.
Yes.
Mr. Stoller.
Permanent.
Mayor Romano. Yes. Thank you.
Are there any comments from the committee in regard to resolution 25-167? May I have a motion to approve resolution 25-167?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Cullen.
Yes.
Mr. Cosgrove.
Yes.
Mr. Sacramandi.
Yeah.
Mr. Stoller.
Permanent.
Mayor Romano.
Yes. Are there any comments from the committee in regard to resolution 25-168? May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Resolution
Second. Oh, sorry.
25-168. May I have a second?
Yes.
Who's second?
David Cosgrove.
Roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Cullen.
Yes.
Mr. Cosgrove.
Yes.
Mr. Sacramandi.
Yes.
Mr. Stoller.
Permanent.
Mayor Romano.
Yes. Are there any comments from the committee in regard to resolution 25-169? May I have a motion to approve resolution 25-169?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Cullen.
Yes.
Mr. Cosgrove.
Yes.
Mr. Sacramandi.
Yes.
Mr. Stoller. Mayor Romano.
Yes. Are there any comments from the committee in regard to resolution 25-170? May I have a motion to approve resolution 25-170?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Cullen.
Yes.
Mr. Cosgrove.
Yes.
Mr. Sacramandi.
Yes.
Mr. Stoller.
Permanent.
Mayor Romano.
Yes. Committee and Sacramandi are scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2707-25.
I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2707-25, an ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinances of the Township of Milburn, chapter XDIII. Environmental regulations to add article 18.4 seasonal restriction of gas powered leaf blowers. So I'm just gonna briefly explain the purpose of this ordinance, I prepared a little something. So, colleagues, neighbors, and friends, well, actually, say that. The purpose of this ordinance, is to introduce a seasonal restriction on gas-powered leaf blowers. It's a compromise, and we'll get into the pluses and minuses of that in a moment, but I think you all know what it's for, so that's what it is. I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. Please be advised that the public hearing of this ordinance will be held at the Milburn Education Center located at 434 Milburn Avenue, Milburn.
We have a second?
What did we discuss?
Oh, do we have to?
You can get a second and discuss.
Second first.
Second.
Now that was discussion.
Oh. Go ahead.
All right, so. Colleagues, neighbors, and friends, over the past year and a half, I have been working closely with the Environmental Commission on the gas-powered leaf blower issue. We've heard from dozens of residents, landscapers, and business owners. When Ben and I ran for Township Committee, we promised to take meaningful action on gas-powered leaf blowers. Listening is part of that promise, and what I heard was clear. People want relief from the noise and fumes, but they also want a solution that is practical for property owners and the hardworking landscape crews who keep Milburn beautiful. Tonight's ordinance is that solution. Instead of year-round ban, it creates a seasonal pause, only during the two stretches when blowers are used the least, January 1st, March 15th, and Memorial Day to Labor Day. During the heavy cleanup months of spring and fall, gas-powered blowers remain allowed, but with reasonable hours, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., and on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. On weekends. Emergency waivers are available when storms hit, and the Department of Public Works keeps its fall collection tools. The language of the ordinance before you reflects this balance. It reflects a compromise. Now, you may ask, why are we tackling this issue to begin with? And the answer is twofold. First, health and air quality. Two-stroke engines vent roughly 30% of their fuel unburned. In under an hour, one backpack blower can emit more nitrogen oxides and fine particulates. To be clear, particulates coming from the exhaust, not out of the blower, fine particulates than a pickup truck driving hundreds of miles. These pollutants are tied to asthma, cardiac disease, and cognitive decline, and they hit our seniors the hardest. Second, noise. The low-frequency roar of gas blowers punches through walls and windows and carries for blocks. Electric blowers have a higher frequency sound, and that fades quickly with distance. That's why at 7 a.m. you can hear a gas-powered leaf blower 3 streets away, even when the windows are shut. Are quieter gas models the answer? Well, even these so-called low-noise gas blowers still run on the same two-stroke gas technology. They pollute. They pollute the same as their high-noise brethren, and they cost more than the units they replace. A decibel limit would be nearly impossible to enforce fairly, so it's not a viable solution. We're also not the first to take action on gas-powered leaf blowers. More than 200 cities nationwide have some form of restriction, including Annapolis, Portland, Washington, D.C., and 6 of our New Jersey neighbors. Morristown voters approved a 9-month prohibition by referendum last year, and Maplewood and Montclair now have full bans. Commercial-grade battery blowers now match gas units in airspeed and cubic feet per minute. And they have a fast payback because batteries cost less over time than gallons of gasoline and carburetor repairs. Our ordinance encourages state, county, and local rebate programs, and we are working on creating a landscaper registry so crews get clear, timely information. This ordinance also provides for enforcement that educates first. The first violation earns only a warning. Fines gradually escalate, and extreme weather can trigger a temporary suspension so yards can be made safe. Finally, let me address the elephant in the room. If we reject this compromise tonight, the question does not disappear. It will likely move to the ballot box. Morristown's experience shows that voters, when asked, go further than what is before us this evening. Their referendum was for a 9-month ban. A referendum would bring Milburn a much longer or even permanent ban. Joining together around this ordinance means cleaner air, quieter summers, and predictable rules that give every stakeholder time to adapt. I believe the seasonal restriction ordinance is fair and measured. It's a compromise that keeps faith with both the concerns of the EC members and environmental advocates and the concerns of landscapers and homeowners in town. I respectfully urge my fellow committee members to vote yes. Let's move Milburn forward, thoughtfully, sustainably, and together.
Thank you, Mayor. I support the ordinance as well. I've thought long and hard about it, and I truly appreciate all the emails I've gotten on both sides of the equation, the conversations I've had with people about it, and the research and all the work that's been done by both sides. I cut my own lawn still. I have my own gas blower. I have an electric one as well. I can tell you from my personal experience, my electric one is quieter. But that's me listening to it and hearing it. But on balance, I think this is a compromise. And I think it's a good compromise. The months when you really need the extra power, you can use these. So on balance, and I understand both sides. I think I do support it. Thank you.
Committee Scott?
Sure. So this topic, and I know it has strong emotions on both sides, and I've sat with everyone. I like to do the work. I like to roll my sleeves. It truly is a compromise. The whole idea of driving a Ford Raptor from Texas to Alaska is the same detriment that blowing a gas leak blower for a half hour is ridiculous. It's not true. You're not gonna create more damage to our environment. And I spoke to people and et cetera, but that's not the decision we're making. How do we meet a fair compromise to have the peace and the quiet, as well as a forward-thinking lead New Jersey with good positions. I sat with Mr. Greller and Renee and Bill, and I talked about it. We did 3 things to get me to really come around. One is we tightened the period in the summer from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Instead of having an elongated summer, we tightened that up quite a bit, especially when a lot of us residents are on vacation. Additionally, we changed a couple of the wording on responsible parties and who would be responsible for the fees or the penalties or the fines. If the landscaper's not complying, it's on them, not on the resident. I thought it'd be unfair to punish a resident when they really don't know what the landscaper's doing. And then third was to explore economic incentives for landscapers to be able to purchase or have incentives or have help moving to some of this equipment, even for the summer months and then for the winter months. I even took it so far as to go out and buy 3 battery-powered blowers and compare them to my gas blower. The 40-volt was the most expensive by far, probably the most powerful thing I've had in my hand, much more than my gas blower. However, it was expensive and it lasted not a long time. The 20-volt and the 12-volt, the 20-volt was inconstant, didn't work, and the 12-volt absolutely didn't work. But for blowing off small amounts of debris in the summer months, I've never seen anyone in my life use a snow blower or a leaf blower in the winter. I just haven't. And I do live in the Wyoming section. So for all those reasons, I'm going with it. I love Anita and they put up with their children. I look in their faces when we go to the clubs, the plant sales, etc. It's generated a lot of energy for our community, and we're setting a good precedent going forward. And it's not a ban; it's a seasonal restriction on the use of blowers. And in terms of further enforcement, things along those lines, I think that has to be looked at. But I'm going to support it.
Thank you.
First of all, I know how to count, and I can see we're at 3. It would be you know, I recognize the passion on both sides of this issue. But it would be wrong to say I don't have reservations. I attended the leaf blower comparison, and I was standing next to, I didn't see him tonight, Mr. Bambara. I looked over his shoulder. The readings were the same, and anecdotally, I did not hear a difference. I have some concerns about forcing the people that do their own landscaping to go out and buy another set of equipment, you know, to impose that on them. I don't feel that way about the landscaping companies, because chances are if they're doing work in town, they're also doing work in Maplewood, and they probably have that equipment anyway. And if they raise their prices, that's the market will settle whether that's justified or not. However, you know, I think maybe what Mr. Trank said, putting it up to a referendum, and it doesn't have to be more restrictive. The referendum could be anything we want it to be. You know, maybe that's a better answer. But you know, for the purposes of tonight, you know, I think this is going to go ahead, and I'll vote in favor of it.
Like Deputy Mayor Cohen said, it's a tough decision because it's going to affect, you know, 6,300 households. Not everyone does their own lawns, but a lot of people do their own lawns. So it is a tough decision, and for anybody that thought that I was the holdout, or that it was political, or it was partisan, none of that is true, because I was torn. I was back and forth with it the whole time. So I'm going to support it on the first reading, and you know, let's hope that it all goes well. So, okay, roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Foxborough?
Yes.
Mr. Sakamandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes.
Thank you.
We announced the public hearing. Go ahead.
Yes. Mr. Sakamandy.
July. I even second your scheduled to start the 2/7 event.
We'd like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2708-25, ordinance amended and supplementing the Township of Milburn Development Regulations and Zoning Ordinance. So this change is a change to our zoning code to take care of some deficiencies that existed in the code. What it will do is it'll protect residential homes from having commercial buildings dropped in without proper buffers. You know, it'll also prevent commercial buildings in residential zones from being way too big for the lot. So it's something that I think we will all welcome. You know, we are a fully developed town, but as we see, sometimes, you know, lots get acquired, things get torn down, and then something new goes in its place. And we need to make sure that our ordinances are protecting our residents from having giant monstrosities right next to them. And this ordinance goes a long way to cleaning up those zoning deficiencies. So I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law and the item, and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. Please be advised that the public hearing of this ordinance will be held at the Milburn Education Center located at 434 Milburn Avenue.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
I just want to point out too, that the purpose of this ordinance also was to clear up some ambiguities, because, you know, and to put an end to some subjectivity as to whether something was okay or not okay in the planning board. The intent here was to make things clear, and I think that's what this does, coming out of the zoning code review committee. So.
Yeah, I just also want to say that in addition to voting for introduction and for public hearing, it also be referred to the planning board for master plan consistency as part of this vote.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Sakamandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Yeah, I've been traveling a lot. I've not had a chance to roll my sleeves and go through it with a fine tooth comb. So I'm gonna abstain until I get a chance to actually review it and understand what the actual drivers are. No one called me on it to be prepared for it tonight. I apologize, but I need to understand all the moving pieces. And there seems to be a lot of negativity surrounding it, so I need to understand it and do the work before I vote on it.
Mayor Romano?
Yes. Deputy Mayor Cohen, you are scheduled to sponsor 2709-25.
I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2709-25, capital ordinance of the Township of Milburn and the County of Essex, New Jersey, authorizing the making of various public improvements and acquisitions in, by, and for the township, appropriating therefore the sum of $1,036,000 and providing that such sum so appropriated shall be raised from the capital improvement fund of the township. And just to give you some examples of what's going on, there's money going toward the fire department for new fire apparatus, to the Department of Public Works for new apparatus there as well, the police department for new police equipment and machinery, and the rec department for, again, more equipment and machinery. So all capital projects across various departments. Now, I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on the first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. Please be advised that the public hearing of this ordinance will be held at the Milburn Education Center located at 434 Milburn Avenue.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Sakamandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes. Committeeman Stoller is scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2710-25.
Thank you. I'd like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2710-25, capital ordinance of the Township of Milburn in the County of Essex, New Jersey, authorizing the making of various improvements and acquisitions in, by, and for the parking utility of the township, appropriated therefore the sum of $200,000, and providing that such sum so appropriated shall be raised from the parking utility capital improvement fund. As it states, it's used to support the utility fund. So, any question? I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading, and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. Please be advised that the public hearing of this ordinance will be held at the Milburn Education Center located at 434 Milburn Avenue, Milburn.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Sakamandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 2705-25, an ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinances of the Township of Milburn, Chapter 2 of Notice Movement, Article 2-16.9, off-duty employment of police officers for public-related activities. The purpose of this ordinance is to amend 2-16.9, off-duty employment of police officers for police-related activities. Specifically, subsection D, rates of compensation, administrative fees, and payment for service. This minor change will increase the rate of pay for all off-duty officers as it relates to security functions to increase participation in this category by being more in line with rates of pay for other off-duty functions. Tonight is the time to set for the public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with law. I declare the hearing over. I move that this public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and the township clerk be directed to publish the ordinance by title as passed on final reading in accordance with law. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Yes.
Mr. Sakamandy?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller?
Affirmative.
Mayor Romano?
Yes. Deputy Mayor Cohen, you are scheduled to sponsor 2706-25.
I present for consideration an ordinance entitled ordinance 2706-25, ordinance amending and supplementing the Township of Milburn development regulations and zoning ordinance Tonight is the time set for the public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with law. And just to note, this is the one with definitions that define apartments and what multifamily means. An answer to a question that was raised, a building such as the one with four units only connected by a carport would not be allowed under this order.
Thank you.
Declare the hearing open. Mary, declare the hearing open.
I declare the hearing open. High Court Kimberly.
Okay, I move that the public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and that the township clerk be directed to publish this ordinance by title as passed on final reading in accordance with law.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Costro?
Yes.
Mr. Sacramenti?
Yes.
Mr. Stoller? Mayor Romano?
Yes.
Thank you.
Old business landscaper registration.
Yeah, so we just put a draft of a registration ordinance before the township committee. Just wanted to see if there was any questions or comments. Essentially what the registration will do, I think was outlined in Mr. Sacramenti's comments, will provide the township, should the leaf blower restriction take place, a way to effectively and efficiently communicate with landscapers in the township regarding that rule change, other rule changes, anything that may take place. But also, does provide, and I think that we will have to end up changing the fees. We had, I think in there some sort of incentive, but again, if depending on the status of that ordinance, we will make sure that that is consistent with that. Getting the information that we need, making sure that trucks are identified. One of the things that we tried to capture in this, and I don't know whether it will be possible or not, is really trying to promote some sort of safety when it comes to landscaper vehicles on the roadways. If you've ever driven on one of the particularly narrow streets when there are multiple landscapers in a location, it is very difficult. So we're gonna see if we can assist with that through this process as well. So just if there's any questions or comments or anything that needs to be adjusted or edited with the ordinance, please let me know. Happy to discuss.
I think it's worth, I personally think we'll be passing the blower ordinance, but even if we don't, I think the landscape registration is something we should have anyway. It's not conditional on that.
Well, just the
Sure.
fees, we're just kind of, we want to figure
All
out.
right, it's gonna be imperative to communicate with them if there is a storm or an emergency that allows the lifting for more heavy use of gas blowers, et cetera. So definitely need a way to communicate with them writ large.
Yeah. It's also useful for the ones that, double park and block streets and whatnot to be able to get in touch with them more easily than it is today.
Yeah.
Committee with recommending new business?
Yes, so, with the planning board, when they met, in closed session, one of the things that came out of it, was that our town actually has some of the lowest, escrow fees of any town in the state of New Jersey. We haven't kept up with the times. When you have a large application before the planning board, you oftentimes might need to bring in outside experts. The applicants are supposed to pay for those outside experts. And if there's not enough escrow, it can then be difficult to get payment after the fact. So our board professionals that were involved had indicated that we should increase, I think it was Eileen that was there, indicated that we should probably increase the escrow. The planning board agreed, and so bringing it to our attention so that we can effectuate a change and increase those so that they're commensurate with what we would find in other towns.
Can you articulate on what the fees are today and what you would like them to go to?
So I think that's something that we have to determine as we craft the order.
What are they today?
We don't have that.
So
So, sorry, if you don't mind. So for like a site plan application, it's $2,500, but you know, the issue becomes that. And to Mr. Segmentti's point is that the ordinance itself did not keep up with the increase in rates of various professionals. So, you know, this is one particular reason that we're gonna have a fee ordinance in front of the township committee so that we can have all of our fees in one place so that it's easier to go through that process of adjusting fees, because this particular part of the code, it is necessary to continue to increase those fees as professional fees increase, as size of applications increase, as, you know, particularly also here where you're now making a change in a professional that is gonna be billed against escrow. Like, these need to be, I think, adjusted every 2 to 3 years. But right now for a site plan application, it's $2,500. There's a lot of different categories too. You know, subdivision application, $1,250 plus $500 per lot. So there, you know, the historic preservation also has escrow fees, so all of these should be adjusted on a regular basis. And because what does happen is those whatever individual is supporting the board and collecting those fees, I think there's always gonna be an instance where they have to go back and ask for fees. However, the frequency in which they have to do that obviously is difficult if they don't get those fees. But also I think an understanding that, you know, a larger fee up front will make sure that those applications get to a point, and then you can continue to ask for fees as you see that get below a certain threshold. Yeah, this is, I think, long overdue.
And it's escrow, so if at the end of the process, there's money left, that goes
Correct.
back to the applicant.
Well, yes, it has to actually be put in an interest-bearing account.
When was the last date that we were updated?
It looks like 23, so we're about due. Plus I think there's
The
additional.
way you guys are talking about it, I thought it'd be like
I know.
1975
Some
or
of,
something.
but not all of them, but some of them have been updated.
I understand.
But even so, even if it is only 3 years, if we're out of step with our neighboring communities, if there's.
I think there's also added fees being added, there's gonna be fees added into this as well. You know, so I think that the starting point is gonna be higher.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I just wanna understand them and, you know, 2023 is 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. But, you know, whatever, you know, it seems procedural to me. And, you know, we don't wanna keep going back to inconvenience everyone to go back and ask for more money. But I would like to see a breakdown of what other towns charge.
Yeah, so we will provide that when we provide the committee with the draft of that fee ordinance. So look at a few other communities about their fees for a whole host of things, not just escrow, but, you know, everything that we deal with in terms of fees.
My partner put a pool in his living room, it was horrific.
Yep.
All right, final public comment. This public comment period is to allow for final comments from the community. When invited to speak of your comments, please come to the lectern. Clearly state your name and whether you are a Millburn resident and or property and business owner. Please do not provide your full address, saying your meetings are recorded and readily available to the public. A reminder that in order to help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers shall limit their comments to 1 3-minute.
Jonathan Baxter, Short Hills resident for 13 years. I understand it's largely moot at this point, the leaf blower ordinance, but I just want to make a couple of comments against what some of the supporters said. And just to make it clear, I'm just in favour of the science. I think this is based on, I mean, I'm not putting in all this work hours and hours to rebut the claims, because I'm just an ordinary cantankerous old guy or whatever. It really is misleading and disinformation. And it's set out now in the ordinance. The claims are misleading, and it's not based on science. So I'm only interested in science in this case. So just to go with what Mr. Brazil said about the 115 being the increase in cancer rate per million, it's just not true. I have the original study here. I've read it more than once, and it's very explicit. 115 possible additional cancers due to baseline exposures. So they go through analysis, they determine that on average, if you use chainsaws, you'll have an increase of 81. The baseline is 115, so they say, well, roughly twice as much. That's where that number comes from. It comes from chainsaw use. And the baseline is 115. That's all of us around there are exposed to this 115 per million. And the point being, chainsaws are on the top of the graph there, with 158 being the peak number that they estimate increase in cancer rate. That's the top line. You can't read it, but I'll tell you it's 158. And there's the leaf blowers. It's 6. So that's just an outright lie, an outright misrepresentation of the science, once again. The other issue on affordability of because the low noise gas blowers are slightly more expensive than an ordinary gas blower, not when you take into account batteries. That's just not so. The argument that they're not available, well, there were 56 available at Home Depot when I got online when we were trying to rush one, get it available in the bake-off. Yes, you had to order them online. Yes, they're not that popular because you got a choice in your landscaper, you got a choice between a backpack battery blower that's been slightly downgraded in order to get it quiet and a full powered one, which is unrestricted in noise, that's actually cheaper. Obviously, you can go for the unrestricted one. It's got to do with, and they're not going for the battery blowers. The only way they're going to buy the battery blowers is if this kind of ordinance passes. So that again is a spurious argument. Second argument by Mr. Grella talked about the low frequency sounds. I believe Committeeman Cohen addressed this. It really is almost no difference between the low noise blower and the electric blowers. In fact, the electric blowers are louder at short range, and that's more damaging to your hearing at short range. So again, I'm not claiming one wins over the other. And finally, just to address the issue of is a noise ordinance workable? It was given one sentence tonight. I think that's the way we should go. Let people decide on the technology, limit the amount of noise, given that the health effects are not what they claim to be. All right, thank you very much.
Rabbi Venerable, 33. So, look, there's a lot of misleading claims that was made. I can talk about that. Much lights on you. The ordinance as proposed has 4 different components that are more strict than the current ordinance. It doubles the buffer from 25 to 50 feet. It adds in that buffer to move the fence 5 feet away from the property line. In our case, we'd be losing 2,000 square feet of property behind the 6-foot high fence, and we'd be required to put up trees, which we could not take care of in any way because they're behind the fence, you understand? And so we lose the 5 feet of property. Why we didn't agree to it? We lose the 5 feet of property. The ordinance specifies that you have to put up a row of trees in between the fence and the property line in that 5 feet. There's no way to maintain them because you're not going to get behind the fence. And then you have to put up another row of trees in front of the fence. And then in the rest of the 50 feet, you got to put up as many plantings as you possibly can up to the discretion of the board. The whole thing makes no sense. When you take a look around town, there is not a single use. I know you say you're protecting. Baloney. There's not a single use in town that has plantings in front of their fence. Every single house of worship, school, Short Hills, a club, doesn't make a difference. Business that abuts in the B4 zones that abut all the residences. Nobody has any plantings. There's a fence. And that's sufficient for the whole town. Comes the Chai Center, and for 30 years, we're trying to find a piece of property that actually meets the town's very, very onerous ordinances. We find one. We come before the planning board. We get a report from Graham that says no variances, no waivers. We go for 11 meetings. We actually went for one meeting, and at that meeting, we asked you guys, should we change our plans? There was an informal vote. Yes, if you change your driveways, we'd like it better. We went back. We spent $60,000 changing our plans. Complete new engineering. Instead of engineering with a swale, engineering under the ground, instead of driveways here, we moved completely new engineering. Not to mention we paid for your guys too. We paid over $75,000 in escrow for your experts. which you made us pay, by the way, because we agreed. We said it. You guys said, if you do it, we'll like it. So we did it, and you guys actually took an informal vote.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
You know, I want to tell you, Mayor, it's unfortunate
Sorry.
that I have to come
Right,
and
right,
spend
right.
3 minutes. I get it.
I'm
It's,
sorry.
I get it. It's
Thank you.
unfortunate, but you know what?
Thank you,
You
Rabbi.
guys have no mechanism for dialogue except in
sorry.
front of a judge.
Thank you.
Is that bad? Yes.
Hi, I would like to address Mr. Saccomandi because he makes a statement. I'm sorry, Ricky Bogomilsky. And he says, just submit a conforming application and we will approve it. Mr. Saccomandi, do you know how many lots there are in Milburn Township? Over 5,000. Do you know how many lots have 3 acres or more? No, you don't. I do. Yeah, what's the number? The number is 4. 4 out of 5,000 lots conform. That's called spot zoning. Because a house of worship can only be in these 4 lots in only to conform. What happens when those lots are not for sale? Oh, well then, too bad. No house of worship. So you go in front of the zoning board and you ask for a variance because that's what they're supposed to do. If you want to build a pool and you don't have enough coverage, you get a variance. If you want to build a patio, you get a variance. If you want to build a garage, you get a variance. If you want to put an addition, you get a variance. But a house of worship goes before the zoning board for variance because there are no 3-acre lots for sale. No, you can't get a variance. You have to conform. But it's impossible to conform. Too bad. No house of worship. So I ask you, Mr. Saccomandi, submit a conforming application. Is it possible? No. You have 4 lots that conform. We finally purchased 1 of the 4 lots. So don't say submit an application that conforms and we'll approve it. It's not possible. And that's why you're in front of a judge. And you're going to be in front of a judge again, because the DOJ is getting involved again. Because Milburn just doesn't learn from their mistakes. When are you going to say enough is enough?
Thank you.
Hi, oops. Robin Blumenthal. Can you hear me? Yep. Yes, thanks. So thank you for giving me another opportunity. I just wanted to set the record straight on the application that we made, because this is all relevant to this new ordinance that's being proposed. First of all, the town engineer and the planner both signed off on our application. Second of all, the planning board was supposed to deliberate over 95 days. And the reason that it was extended so many times was because of all of these things that the planning board brought up, not us. And as the rabbi said, we kept changing them, dancing to the tune, changing the application, trying to fulfill what you wanted. But the problem is, I don't think it's possible. I really don't. So in terms of why it dragged on for 8 months instead of whatever it is, 3 months, you can blame the planning board on that. It also came at great expense to us. And now these ordinances are already being challenged for it. And I hate to say it, and I really don't want this to happen, but the judge is already considering damages against Milburn because of what's been going on with this application. And I really hope that this committee will carefully consider this, because it will have tremendous effect on us as community members, taxpayers, and just the town in general, because I don't think it's not a good look. It really isn't. So thank you.
Ed Mazer, resident. Mr. Saccomandi, I'd also like to discuss one of your comments. You mentioned that Milburn does not and has never discriminated. There was one of the few lots in town that did conform many years ago. And one of our supporters mentioned this as a matter of courtesy to the Township Committee that we were considering buying the lot. A few weeks later, with no public discussion, legal notice. In the item for first read, it read subparagraph 606.2D1, providing for houses of worship as conditional uses in the R3, R4, R5, and R6 zones is repealed in paragraph 606.2D2 and 606.2D2. It's a typo in there. Are renumbered as 606.2D1 and 606.2D2 respectively. In effect, with the Township Committee, with no discussion, in effect said houses of worship, new houses of worship are not permitted in Milburn anywhere in the town under any circumstances. You have a different perspective than I do. I do see that as discrimination. As I mentioned, when I testified before the planning board, there was another lot that we were considering buying adjacent to Old Short Hills Park. Litigation ensued. There was sworn testimony by the planner that the mayor at the time said to him that if the rabbi were to buy the property, the township could always condemn it. Again, I would see that as discrimination. Maybe you don't. I look at the fact that the DOJ got involved in one of the few cases. In 25 years, they've done basically 250, so there's only about 10 a year. Milburn happened to be one of them. The investigation lasted 4.5 years. They say there was nothing there, but your own attorney sent a reply statement for mediation, and it says in part, given this reality and Milburn's potentially catastrophic $13 million monetary damage exposure, Milburn notified the Mel in December 10, 2015 letter that the policy limits of the primary POL policy may be exceeded and directed that the Mel place all excess and reinsurance carriers on notice of this claim. Apparently, even your own attorneys thought that there would be exposure here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Exciting evening, Richard Steiger, President. Thank you very much for making clear. One thing that I would like you to add is who is in charge of enforcing it? Thank you.
Jeffrey Feld, poet section, just have like 5 comments. First, I want to thank you for the 2 clarifications that you did about the lease and the change in the ordinance. The other thing, I too attended the Juneteenth celebration today. My family again received a shout out from the NAACP. But when the major speaker, the professor, talked about the sin of silence in one of his speeches, and I think that has to be remembered in what we're doing. That ties into tomorrow when we have the 4th round public hearing before the planning board. That's the public's only time to make a comment on that. And I think the public really should understand that, really understand it, and to give comments on the element plan. I attended public forum last Thursday on the police staffing. I was there when the slide deck, and we asked specific questions about, how many the consultant recommended. It was my clear understanding from that presentation that they recommended that we have 6 additional officers. And then here's today that there was a statement or misunderstanding. I'm sort of confused because I was at a public forum. There was a slide that specifically that we needed 6 additional police officers. As to the 3rd round, there was a hearing on June 6th. I was out of town. Hopefully we get a transcript to understand what the judge's thinking was, why he denied or granted the various applications. One thing that I did notice, when the order that granted litigants' rights, I think we might want to change it because it says it was not opposed. I think based on by following the cross motion, that the record should be clear when this goes up, which I think everyone anticipates, that shows that we did oppose the litigants' rights motion, regardless of what it says on the order. And also, hopefully there will be a final notice, hearing notice that the public standard has the opportunity to appear and put our objections onto the record as to the issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Pasternak. I just had a couple of follow-up regarding Alex. I did ask about why in the police study that the residents were omitted from giving their input. I didn't hear an answer. And then also about the train station project at Short Hills. I wondered again what's the scope of that, and also how we will give input to that. And then the third thought was about the Braca Plaza. We are currently allowing, I guess, various flags to be raised in front of Town Hall. So what policy guides that? Is that not the similar or same type of issue? So if we have a policy for that, can't that be used for this situation as well? And if we don't, then maybe we need one for that too. The other thing I wanted to bring up is there are a lot of threats being made. I'm finding about so many different things in this room tonight and elsewhere, but one thing that I want to bring to the attention, there was some back and forth about the Memorial Day parade. And I want to make it clear, we only got information about a week before the parade, maybe 10 days, that there was going to be a waiver of the insurance requirement for different groups. So that then set off a whole different process for us in terms of our committee and participation, because the amount that we had to pay was onerous for us. So we decided not to participate for that reason, and then it was overturned, changed. So at the last minute, we had to get people there, figure out a banner, blah, blah, blah. So I'd just like to understand, what is the policy? Can you make it more clear as to what is going to happen in the future? And then what is allowed? What is political free speech? What isn't? Because what this set off was a series of press releases, one that came out from the Democratic Committee, response from the Republican Committee, and what it resulted in was the TAP, which is the only newspaper really that our community has, to put out a policy now eliminating letters to the editor. So it's really a shame. I think it came from a threat. I'm reading from an email that Elise, who is the editor at the TAP, sent to me. This was from Michael, Mallon, who is a member of the Democratic Committee. Elise, their release is clearly filled with inaccuracies and baseless accusation. As an attorney, I try not to lean fast into legal threats, but these are actionable statements, and I feel the need to now ask you to more firmly remove their release. They can post an updated one that sticks to the facts. If this release is not removed, I think legal action will be our only remaining option. I really don't want to go down that path, as you and I have been able to work things out in the past, but defamatory lies can't stay up. So the response to all this is no more letters to the editor that are critical of incumbents or any political figure. That's a terrible outcome, and it really needs to be rooted in making policies clear and not threatening people with lawsuits. That's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Evening, Jerry Kung, Short Hills resident. As usual, I wasn't intending to come up to speak today, but something that Ms. Pasternak stated triggered something in my mind. So I don't want to congratulate myself for, giving us the Zoom, but, I spoke up here several months ago asking for the Zoom, and now we have the Zoom. So thank you very much for taking action on that. As part of my civic activism, so to speak, I did submit a letter to the editor explaining what had happened in this room the day that Zoom was decided. And I thought that it was a fair description of what had happened. I said that Frank Sacamandi, my husband, agreed to the Zoom, David Cosgrove agreed to the Zoom, and then Mr. Solar agreed to the Zoom. And as Mr. Cohen said earlier today, he can count 3 out of 5 is a majority. And so following Mr. Solar's agreeing to the Zoom, Mr. Cohen also agreed. So I believe at the time, our mayor said that she wanted to see if it would be a problem. And in my letter to the editor, I said that waiting for it to be a problem just removes the mechanism for the problem to arise in the first place. Because if someone cannot attend, they cannot tell you that they cannot attend. So, I think it's just really a shame that my letter to the editor got removed. I wasn't trying to make it negative. I was trying to, hold TC members accountable for their actions on the dais. And unfortunately, if members of our community think that their own actions on the dais can be considered negative and have that be censored in what is nominally our only newspaper in town, I think that's a shame. I don't want to sound cliche, but as the Washington Post's motto is, democracy dies in darkness. And if we're all so committed to preserving our democracy, I think we should all take a very close look at what is happening to the letters to the editor and the TAP, because I think that censorship is very serious. And just to move back a bit, the reason I'm so fired up about the Zoom issue is because it strikes at the heart of giving people access and letting TC members be held accountable for their decisions. And I think Zoom just encapsulates the need for giving members of the public access to be able to speak their minds. Now, I welcome people to say things that I don't agree with. I think the way we come to a better decision is to talk to people we disagree with, come up with compromises. I think what we saw with the seasonal restriction on leaf blowers is a good example of everything that can be done when we sit down at a table and talk to each other, as opposed to shutting out the voices that we disagree with. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on?
No.
We'll close public comment. Does anyone want to respond? Deputy Mayor?
I have nothing to add.
Committee Solar?
I have nothing to add at this time.
Committee Patrick?
Nothing, thank you.
Committee Segment?
Nothing to add.
May I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, just to answer a few of the inquiries, one in particular, I'm not gonna get into, tap into, that's their decision, and that's not within my realm. However, I will speak about the Memorial Day Parade. So last year, in 2024, I think the exact same question came up, and our response was the same as it was this year, which was we do not have the expectation that every group that decides to walk in the Memorial Day Parade is going to be able to acquire insurance. This is a business decision, quite honestly, right? Based on the fact that it is very difficult for groups to obtain insurance for a one-day community event that is not meant to be a slog for our small groups that want to participate. Friends of the library, the various committees, it's difficult. I think we provided that exact same answer last year. As far as it relates to the rules, I would say that it is a township event that has very clear rules associated with the form and application to participate. And that is the responsibility of those participating. And I am, again, without a dog in any fight, so to speak, somewhat concerned about the fact that it is a Memorial Day parade. It is a parade based on a day of remembrance and sacrifice and all of that. And I don't we wrote into the rules to make sure that politics on that particular day, we understand, look, people are gonna come to the shredding event or whatever, and they're gonna do but that day, that's the rule, and that's what's in the rules, and the township has the right, I think, and the attorney can correct me, to provide rules for a particular event. So that's my answer on that. As far as it relates to the train station, we will set up public information sessions with a consultant, about the east side of the, Short Hills train station to have residents provide input. We've done a lot of these in the past where they're like, sort of charettes, like you can come in, you can tell us what you think. We have a base plan at this point. People can say, we don't like that, we like that, we wanna see more of this, we wanna see that. Just hoping you think about this, whatever it might be. And our anticipation is to do that, twice, to have that type of, interaction twice. And as far as the police staffing study, Mr. Feller, I certainly understand your confusion, but it's very clear in the executive summary, that that was posted on the website prior to the public information session, as well as, the full study that is published on the website, that it states that they're calling for a reallocation of police department, of patrol, staff into those special service units. And I think at Thursday night, the same question was asked about the public participation. And the answer is that this was a police staffing study that we wanted to make sure that the public was involved in some way, which was that information session, to provide the results, to provide an opportunity to ask questions about the results, to discuss that. And so, the idea and the purpose behind the study was to get to a sense or an idea in a data-driven way that is not, a group from New Jersey or a group from Essex County, like that was very separate from our community, to be able to provide that information those data points to us and provide that. So those are my answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for completeness, as for the garbage cans, it's the Milburn Police Department, Department of Public Works, the recycling coordinator, and the health officer. And for the landscaper noise, it's the police department and the construction official.
Also, you were discussing that was your question, Mr. Cyber? Okay.
I have one thing too. All the positivity that we see in this town, and we need to, really call these out. We had 2 individuals accepted to the U.S. Military Academy, and they'll be going in the fall. That's Izzo Garajala and Andrew Zhang. Both, we're very proud of them, and that's a great accomplishment for them. So let's just honor them as well.
Okay, you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?